This Clan Johnston programme is a journey of discovery sweeping through the ages. To meet with ghosts of times past, to hear their stories, to explore the ancient castles, the homes of your ancestors, and discover the roots and richness of your Scottish heritage and name. Our story begins over 6,000 years ago, with the arrival of the first settlers in Scotland. These early pioneers discovered a deeply forested land, brooding and impenetrable. They settled along the coast and on the riverbanks. They lived by fishing and hunting in the dark woodlands. Enigmatic remains of these peoples can still be found. But their lives and thoughts are lost to us now, kept secret in this land once called Alba, now called Scotland. The Roman legions marched into Scotland about 80 AD, and it is from their historians we have the first records of this land and of her peoples. To the northeast, the oldest inhabitants, known as the Picti, or the Painted People, whose origin is unknown to us. In the western Highlands, the Gaelic-speaking Celts, or Scotti, who had sailed from Ireland. Across the lowland areas were the Brythonic Celts. Their legends were those of King Arthur, and theirs was the magical land of Camelot. The Romans, who had conquered the known world, never managed to quell the indomitable spirit of Scotland. They ruled Britain for almost 4 centuries, but built the famous Hadrian's Wall to keep the warlike Scots at bay. With the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Anglo and the Saxon came to the lowlands. In time, Viking raiders came too, and with fire and sword conquered the north, east, and much of the Western Isles. For hundreds of years, Viking, Saxon, Celt and Pict clashed in their battle for supremacy. The skill and courage of these warriors is reflected in the game of shinty, still played in the Highlands today. By the 11th century, the Gaelic Highlands won out. And as Gaelic became the principal language and culture, so the Gaelic use of surnames became widespread. They developed from 4 principal roots: from a person's occupation, as in Fearson, meaning parson; from a place of residence, as in Sutherland, from the lands of Sutherland; from a physical feature, as in Armstrong, a literal reference to a strong arm. The most popular form of surname in Scotland, however, is the Gaelic use of the word Mac, meaning son of, as in MacDonald, son of Donald. The origin of the name of Johnston is said to have several sources. The most common, however, is derived from John's Tun, which means John's farm. The Gaelic of this name is Macian. For a person with Scottish roots, your surname is only one clue in the search for your ancestry, for unique to Scotland is the ancient system of clans. The word clana is derived from the Gaelic and means children or family. It is used in its present-day context to mean an extended family, often, though not always, sharing a common name, united under a chief and bound together by a shared heritage. The clans practiced a sophisticated system of government which survived, often independently of the rest of Scotland, for nearly 5 centuries. They often banded together into great confederations. The Clan Chattan and the Lordship of the Isles were the most enduring. The forefathers of Clan Johnston were mainly a border clan who came to inhabit Annandale in the 13th century, after these lands had been vacated by the Bruces. Annandale was in the region now known as Dumfries and Galloway in southwestern Scotland, overlooking the mighty Solway Firth, which leads almost directly into the border with England. Dumfries itself is at the heart of the region and is the largest Scottish town. The region is a great vastness, coloured with forests and mountainous terrain, unspoiled by the ravages of the 20th century, and holding the secrets of the troubled history of the clans who lived from it, fertile with the blood shed by Scotsmen fighting for their independence. Unfortunately for your ancestors, their family lands, located as they were on the border with England, became centre stage in the ongoing wars between Scotland and England. As landholders whose land was often ravaged by fire and sword, the Johnstons were to suffer more than most. The clan derived its name from the 13th century barony of Johnston in Annandale and grew to become wardens of the Western Marshes, a title which entrusted the holder to police the western border between Scotland and England. They alternated this position with their arch-rivals, the Maxwells. For most border families, cattle stealing was less a crime and more a way of life. Of no one is this more true than the clan Johnston. They stole from both sides of the border, and they kept their stolen cattle here, in Scotland's Grand Canyon, in that stone ring known as the Devil's Beef Tub.
This is the armorial achievement of the chief of the Johnstons. His shield is a very interesting one, because it follows the design of the shield used by the ancient Earls of Annandale, a saltire and chief in red on a gold shield. And as you can see here, the colours have been altered, and the shield has further been differenced by the addition of 3 gold cushions on the chief. And of course the Johnstons came from Annandale, and in these arms reference is being made to that fact. Above the shield is the helmet of a peer, and on it the crest of the chief, a winged spur, which is an extremely appropriate emblem for a clan like the Johnstons, who were quite so notorious for their border reaving. And finally, on top, you have the chief's motto, Nunquam non paratus, Latin for never unready. And as a clansman, all Johnstons are entitled to wear the winged spur surrounded by a buckle strap with that motto on it.
Honours came late to the Johnstons. It was not until 1633 that King Charles elevated James Johnston to the peerage. Unfortunately, the new Lord Johnston and his successors were unable to produce a male heir, so the inheritance passed from the main line of the family to the cadet branch here at Wester Hall near Langham. At least they kept it in the family. Lord Johnston of Lochwood, as James was now known, received further titles from King Charles I when 10 years later he became the Earl of Hartfell. This earldom and the subsequent marquisate of Annandale were lost, however, with the failure of the clan to produce any male heirs in the beginning of the 19th century. The chiefship of this proud border clan remained in doubt until 1983, when the Lord Lion recognised Percy Hope Johnston as being of that ilk and Annandale. Percy sadly died within a few weeks of recognition and was succeeded by his son Patrick, who in 1985 managed to reclaim the dormant earldoms of Annandale and Hartfell.
The tartan you see before you has become a mark of kindred identity for Johnstons worldwide. No matter what their origin, whether it be Highland or Lowland, this pattern, which came from a rather dubious source in 1842, is now their emblem, and they'll stand by it whatever.